Hey, what's up, players? This is Teddy Long.
Hey, this is Nick Aldis, a.k.a. Magnus.
This is the son of the preacher and the prize fighter, Mr. 1.9, the product, the hanging man in the T-mask, the original Superman punch, Michael Tarver, a.k.a. Monster Tarver. And you are now listening to Main Event Madness because you have no choice.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event.
Oh, yeah!
Are you ready?
And now, coming live from Wrestling-News.net and presented by Spreaker, it's Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed. You can also chat with us during the show, either by using the hashtag MEMLive or by calling 305-600-4708. And now, here are the hosts of tonight's show, John Curry, Mark Madison, and Aaron Ramadanov.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Main Event Madness WWE Fastlane pregame show. Because if anything could be longer than the intro of the show, it's the name of the show. But anyway, hope you guys are all having a great weekend and a great Sunday. Looking forward to somewhat this ever increasingly interesting WWE live event. I don't think they call them pay-per-views anymore, but the hell with it. Mark is not with us tonight, but that's okay. That's why we replace him with our usual name, Aaron Ramadanov. He is one of the co-hosts of, he does his own show on pwpnation.com, as well as, is Wrestling's Rope Break back?
It is.
So I was right where I was going the first time. He's one of the hosts of Wrestling's Rope Break, which you guys can find each and every week at pwpnation.com as well. Aaron, how are you?
I'm very good, John. Happy to be on and excited for Fastlane.
Absolutely, man. Me too. Glad to have you on. Making his triumphant return after 5 long months because, he lives 2 minutes down the street from me and he can't stop over here more than every, like twice a year. Good friend of mine, Chris Lugo, with me as well.
Hi to everyone but John.
And also with us, I got Mike Mills. He does Booking the Territory that you guys can check out also. And I have Hank McAllen and... Why am I drawing a blank on your last name, Kurt? I had everything going good. Kurt Zaboa, they're both writers for TGIWrestling.net. Guys, welcome to the show. Looking forward to good conversation here.
Thanks for having me back, John. Appreciate it.
Nice to be back, John. Thank you.
Yeah, John, I appreciate it, man.
Hey, Kurt, first off, sorry about that. I had everything, but, when you got 6 people, Joel might have been right about that, Aaron, but when you have 6 people flying on this office...
It's tough to manage sometimes,
A little bit.
Kind of wait their turn, I guess, and,
Just add another Twitter plug for me later in the show. We'll call it even.
Exactly. Follow him on Twitter, at FriscoKTank. There we go. But, yeah, it's an interesting day. It was kind of looking like one of those status quo weekends going into a pay-per-view, not really much going on. And then, the quote-unquote face of the WWE and John Cena had to stir the pot a little bit. I don't know if you guys have seen any of this or not. And Aaron, I want to get your thoughts first because I know one of these subjects you're going to be not as enthusiastic about as I am. But John Cena, if you guys remember, before the Royal Rumble, posted a picture of AJ Styles on his Instagram account. Granted, that one was linked with rumors about AJ Styles debuting with WWE. And Cena seemingly at it again and is posted CM Punk's Twitter profile picture on his Instagram and has since set a complete wildfire amongst the internet wrestling community. Aaron, do you think there's anything of substance to this, or do you think it's just Cena trolling people?
I think Cena's just having a little bit of fun. I mean, I think Cena is heavily underrated for his comedic ability and his ability to be a troll. We saw earlier today when he was at NASCAR at the I forget what race it was, Daytona 500, and you have him, some lady walk by him, and she accidentally flips her hair into his face, and he kind of just sits there and shrugs it off. I think he's got this underlying ability to be really funny, and I think he's just having a little bit of fun. I mean, he posted a picture of the Undertaker too. I mean, he's just kind of, I think, having fun with the people that read a lot into little things. Do I think Punk comes back? No, because he's under contract with UFC, so I don't know if he would even be able to come back on WWE TV. So it'd be very interesting to see. I mean, obviously it'd be crazy, and a lot of people would really love that if he did come back. But I don't think there's any merit to the idea of Punk coming back tonight or anytime soon.
Mike, what do you think?
If I was a betting man, I'd say heck no. But I mean, I don't know everybody's voice yet, so I agree. I don't see any way possible that he's coming back. Then again, crazier things have happened. So if you were to tell me, stick a percentage on it that there's any truth to it, I'd probably say 1% at the most. There's no way. Punk, we all know how he left and everything that happened, and probably most of us heard the podcast that he did with Cole Cabana. There's no way. Cena he is underrated when it comes to I guess trying to be funny and trying to maybe stir stuff up and trying to make things and make stories out of something. I mean, and then as you can see what we're doing here, we're citing how he tweeted about AJ Styles. What was it? A little over a month ago. And now, it's like, wait, what's this CM Punk thing? I didn't see whatever happened at the NASCAR race today, so I'm not sure exactly if he did anything there as well. But nah, I don't think we make anything of it. 1% chance that it's true. Cena's just having a little fun with the world.
Mr. Lugo, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, they're still friends. I mean, could be he could be talking to him or something and doing something with him. You just don't know it. Like, it could be something on the side. I mean, I've seen on CM Punk's Twitter before where they had a bet of $1 once, and they posted a picture together, and it was all because of one move that he did in the ring, and he betted him that he wouldn't do it, and he did it. And no one knew the story behind it until he talked about it on Cabana's podcast. So maybe there was something they were talking, and he was probably like, "Well, I bet you won't do it," or something like that, and he ended up doing it anyways. Plus, if I remember correctly, isn't he still recovering from back surgery? So there's not really much he can do. I know it's a quick one. I think they said it'll only be a couple weeks, but I don't see there being much truth to any of it.
Hank, is this something that you would enjoy seeing, or do you think there's any substance to it?
I think there's zero substance to it. I mean, to me, Cena, again, he's right now laying in the weeds. He's not relevant at all during the biggest time of their year, which is leading into WrestleMania. He's not a player right now. And it's a situation where he's making himself feel present again. And he's, doing little tweets and whatnot. But like the other gentleman said, he's under contract with another organization, CM Punk. Do I think CM Punk regrets in the long run leaving WWE? Absolutely, especially seeing the talent that's in there now that he would have amazing matches with potentially, and his frustration about not being able to do UFC yet. But however, I don't see this holding any water about CM Punk coming back anytime soon.
And Kurt, what are your thoughts?
I think Cena is kind of piggybacking on what Hank said. I think Cena is trying to keep his name relevant in the biggest season of the year for WWE. He said, he was quoted today by Fox Sports saying that he was somewhere between 0 and 100% healthy. And so it wouldn't be fair to him to say what his status is for WrestleMania. To me, that sounds like someone that knows that he's probably not going to be at the biggest show of the year, but wants to stir the pot and get his name out there at least. I believe that Cena has enough of an ego to do something like that. I think he was trying to troll just as much with the Punk photo as he was with the Undertaker photo because, the original matchup was supposed to be him versus Taker at WrestleMania. So if he posts a photo of Taker, people are going to think he's going to be able to come back and wrestle Taker still. So, I just think it was Cena stirring the pot on both ends.
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing that I thought was interesting, and I didn't know until, I thought I read something, but I didn't know how true it was, and then Wayne Daly, Wrestling-News.net, told me about it earlier, was that, maybe, and this is grasping on the strings for the people that are truly, truly hoping and holding their breath for this, and no, I'm not one of them. CM Punk had 16 test fights. and lost 15 of them. Maybe it was something that the UFC kind of took notice of, and maybe they have, I believe they have the ability to cut him if they don't feel it would be worth having him on there or worth anything financially, right, Aaron?
Well, I don't know what CM Punk's contract details are. I don't think they can just cut him and that'll be it. I mean, I think they'd still have to pay him, so I think that would be just kind of a idiotic move for them to just cut him without him even ever having a fight, where they'd still have to pay him his contract and him never producing a fight. I think he's somebody that the UFC wants as far as a drawing tool. I think they want to plug him into a big fight card like a UFC 200 or something like that, where they can plug him into that card and then they can, because their goals are obviously to get buys, to get pay-per-view buys. So I think plugging him in, I think he's someone that can generate a good amount of pay-per-view buys from just the UFC fans that just want to see if he has anything in the octagon, and then the wrestling fans who either want to see him win or want to see him get his face bashed in. I'm kind of in that third group there, but I think with Punk, with Cena, with this whole situation, I think overall, I think it's just Cena having a little bit of fun. I think Punk, someone said earlier, I forgot who it was, that maybe Punk regrets leaving WWE and wishes he might have stayed. I think that's somewhat true. I think maybe he feels like he might have overreacted a little bit and took a little bit too far. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know what's in CM Punk's mind, but as far as the 15 out of 16 test fights that he lost, I don't know how big of a deal that is. I'm not that big of a expert on mixed martial arts to know if that's a big deal or not. I mean, from the numbers alone, it does seem like a big deal, but I would have to defer to somebody else to be able to tell me more about if losing 15 out of 16 test fights is something that's really, really bad and really unheard of.
John, when we had our show a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Punk back then, and we said, or I said back then that I think Punk is stupid enough, and stupid may be a harsh word, but I think Punk is stupid enough to where he believes everything he said in that podcast and believes his own hatred for the company. So I think he actually doesn't regret leaving WWE because I actually think he believes it was the right decision and that everything he thinks about the company is true, whether it is or not. And I think we all feel that he probably should have stayed in the company. But as for UFC, they signed him to an 8-fight deal. So they obviously wanted a long-term commitment with some profit to come from these fights. And so if they're already thinking about, jumping ship before the first fight, I think that says a lot about the rash decision that he made.
Definitely. And I mean, it's just, and we talked about this on the show when you were on, if he's ever even going to fight. It seems like with Punk, it's one excuse after the other, and I think the UFC now is cashing in on something that has cooled off immensely to the point I don't even know if they're going to get the buy rates or if they're going to get the publicity that they thought they would get 2 years ago. But I
was just going to add, I just thought
John, I think it comes down to legitimacy, too. I think people are realizing that we've seen only one guy truly succeed from the pro wrestling world in UFC, and that is Brock Lesnar, who was a legitimate wrestler, who was just one of the toughest guys going. He was able to do it and make the adjustment. And other guys, Batista, Alberto Del Rio, now we're seeing CM Punk. The transition is not as easy as people think it is. It's completely different training. It's a completely different body type you need to have. And this is now Punk's inability to perform at what the expected level was going to be and drawing the attention. It's now drawing negative attention to any wrestler who may want to think about doing this in the future. Dana White's going to be very hesitant potentially now about taking anybody else moving forward, I think.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was just thinking about it too the other day. I seen Punk posted something. Well, not the other day. It was a couple weeks now. Before he went to back surgery, he posted a picture of Austin photoshopped in on his back surgery, hitting him over the head with the bedpan. So I mean, I could see that playing into it too. But if he ever wanted to come back, look at what Alberto Del Rio did. All he had to do was apologize, and they have to apologize and be moved. I think him coming back would be a lot easier than people think it would be. Vince loves money.
I agree with that. 'Cause, Vince has a track record of taking people back that you would have thought, oh man, there's no way. I mean, we're so far removed, but I mean, let's be honest. There was times when Hulk, many years ago, when he left. I mean, there was times when they were doing the Nacho Man and the Huckster. While I don't think it was right before the Monday Night Wars really started. So there's a track record of the guy actually, making amends and taking people back. For things that happen. So I think it's a matter of time. I've told a friend of mine that over and over. I was like, he's going to come back one day. I don't know if it's now or 20 years from now or 30 years from now, but I firmly believe he'll be back in a WWE ring at some point doing something, whether it's fight, whether it's wrestling, or whether it's some type of ambassador, or whether it's just a personality. I just firmly believe he'll be back at some point. So to say it'll never happen, no, I don't. I'm not on one of those that says that. I don't even know if he regrets it because he sounded so like ticked off during that podcast. He probably thinks right now, yeah, you know what? Oh well, it's not going like I planned, but I'm still happy with my decision because I was fed up.
Well, like I said too, I mean, you don't have to go that far back really either because of Alberto. I mean, it's it's kind of parallel, I think. I mean, he said that he apologized, they apologized, and they're good to go. I think that's pretty much all it would take. But if Punk were to come back, he's got to do it while Vince is still around. I don't think Triple H will do that with him.
Yeah, Hunter won't forgive him. Hunter won't forgive him. Vince is always willing to do business with anybody as long as they're profitable. And if Vince can make money off of you, he'll welcome you back with open arms. But Hunter's not so forgiving, and I don't think Hunter cares that much about making money as if it affects kind of not the morale of the company, but like obviously Hunter has an ego. Everyone has an ego, but I think Hunter's ego is a little bit bigger than what we think it is. So.
And I remember, not too long after Punk left too, there were a bunch of reports going around too that Vince wanted Punk back, and Triple H was basically saying like, the hell with that, he left, screw him. And Vince was kind of like, no, don't say that. But I think Vince, like to your point, is more focused on the almighty dollar than anything else. But what was I?
Mm-hmm.
I had a point, lost it. Awesome, gotta love live radio. Anyway, it's that's was to Chris's point, everybody's point really. Go back a little bit further, and you got somebody to say in the last decade that The Rock's come back and wrestled, that Bret Hart's come back to WWE, that Hogan came back after ditching them for TNA, and the Warrior came back, and they inducted Savage. So I mean, truly. With WWE, as long as Vince is running the company, anything is possible. That's my opinion.
The one I was. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about that. I was going to say, if you believe what is making the rounds within the last probably 2 to 4 weeks, I mean, Vince is apparently already ready to bring back Hulk Hogan after the racist spiel that he had. That he was basically persona non grata for. WrestleCon, the big event in WrestleMania weekend, tweeted out that they made an offer to Hogan. And he declined it, and they said they fully expect him to be working for Vince that weekend now. So I would assume they got some sort of information from Hogan that led him to lead that statement to be released by them.
As it was said to you just a few minutes ago, it's all about business with Vince, and it's all about making money. If it's good for business and it's making money, he'll bring you back. Which, if Vince is seeing, now this is something else to think about, if Vince is seeing that Hunter is going to hold grudges against people that will potentially hold up money coming into the company, is he going to be so quick to give up the reins potentially until he feels more comfortable with Hunter looking at things more from a business point of view as opposed to more of a personal end point of view?
Well, another example of that too could be you look at last year and the tough time that Triple H was giving Kurt Angle. When Kurt wanted to come back to WWE, and Triple H was kind of basically giving him the cold shoulder, whereas Vince seemed a little bit more willing and able to negotiate with him.
That's a great point.
Well, also we have to keep in mind
for WrestleMania.
Let's also keep in mind too that Hunter has done a lot of good with
building
bridges back with guys like Bruno Sammartino and Warrior and guys like that who we never thought would be back in the company. And who eventually came back. Now, those aren't feuds that Hunter had. Those are feuds that Vince had, and Hunter went in and kind of reconciled both parties. Now, I think if Punk were to come back and maybe have a sit down with Hunter and they could work some of their problems out, maybe he would be more open to bringing him back. But I think Punk would have to go the extra mile to kind of almost prove to Hunter that he would be willing to come back and kind of be a little less of who he was beforehand, and now be more willing to accept change, accept the decisions that Hunter and Vince make as far as creative is concerned.
Punk would have to be humble at that point. Yeah, he'd have to eat a little humble pie.
So time will definitely tell from this to see if anything truly does come from it, that's for sure. But, I forgot who it was, and I do apologize. One of you guys touched on it before, and that's another thing I wanted to touch on before we get going into the pay-per-view talk, is Cena, trolling again with the Undertaker picture. And I asked that with also keeping in mind about the poster that's starting to make its way around now, that people are trying to determine if it's a real poster or if it's a fake poster. And on the poster, it's got on the top, it's got 2 matches that they're advertising, or at least 4 stars. Roman Reigns and Triple H on top, and John Cena and The Undertaker on the bottom. That could easily be a case of, they're still WWE's arguably 4 biggest stars they have right now. That aside from not named Brock Lesnar, of course. But, so it could just be a case of that, or, is it even, if it's even a real poster to begin with? What do you think about that, Chris?
I mean, it's possible that it's real. It could also be a red herring, doing it on purpose. They've done stuff like that before. And then they change it last minute. I mean, everything changes last minute around here.
What do you think, Aaron?
I don't really read much into WWE's posters. A lot of it's just kind of weird marketing initiatives and weird kind of things that they do. I mean, I remember last year or the year before or something. I mean, going to Night of Champions, they had like Kofi Kingston on the poster, but he ended up not being put on the card until like the last minute or something like that. So I think the poster situation is something that I don't really read much into. I mean, sure, it could be them, throwing it out there, or it could be fake or whatever. I don't really read much into the poster situation there.
Kurt, what are your thoughts?
I actually put more, and the short answer for Cena is I think he's trolling on Undertaker. I mean, I know we all make fun of, tongue-in-cheek Cena being Superman, but I just can't see him coming back that soon for this match with Taker. I'm more intrigued by Dave Meltzer's statement this week about who Taker's opponent will be at WrestleMania, and how it's apparently somebody not currently on the roster. And, he even said himself that stirs up the Sting rumors again. But, the one name that I think that's out there that is starting to get a little steam is Kurt Angle finally coming back. And I think that if I was a betting man, it's a wide open competition for who Taker would face. But I think I would put money on Kurt Angle making a comeback to face Taker at WrestleMania.
Hank, what are your thoughts?
I agree 1,000% with Kurt. I'm thinking Angle's coming back. They need some juice going into this Mania. They still don't have, we're a little over a month out. They still don't even know if they really want to even have Reigns in the main event with Triple H. They're going to probably make that decision 5 minutes before the match if they're going to give it to Ambrose or Reigns. I don't see Lesnar getting it, and I would love to see, and I really do believe, I agree with Kurt, I think Angle's going to be Taker's opponent. On the current roster, I thought it was probably going to be Jericho. Maybe would have given him the best match, but if you can get Angle in there, you just boosted your gate even more. Any unsold tickets are sold.
Now, say if John Cena somehow is able to compete, and they do bring in Kurt Angle to face The Undertaker, where would you put a guy like John Cena? Would you not have him rush back if you can get Kurt Angle, or if he's able to go, would you use a guy with the caliber of star power, drawing power of a John Cena at the show in some capacity?
It's the Super Bowl, right? I mean, the Super Bowl's always going to sell out no matter what. So why not let WrestleMania be WrestleMania without John Cena to see if your new stars can really step up to the plate now and give you the great show for your future? We know what Cena can do. We know Cena's on his way out eventually. Let's try to have a Mania without him and see what kind of show you can get without having A, rush him back, and B, see who's going to step up and maybe be the next Cena.
Yeah, I'd follow up that statement. Obviously, WWE will use Cena if he's available, and they just think too much of him to where they would just hold him off when they think so highly of him and of WrestleMania. But I really agree with that. Let's do a WrestleMania showcasing the future of this company, because as of right now, this will be the first WrestleMania since WrestleMania 20 that John Cena and Randy Orton will not be wrestling on the same card. So I think that really gives a lot of attention to the guys that deserve it right now and help them springboard into the future.
Aaron, what do you think?
I think if Cena's available, they're going to use him. I mean, we've seen kind of pictures. I mean, I think I saw a video of Cena already back in the gym. The guy is a freak of nature, and of course, there's the cloud of HGH or steroids or performance-enhancing drugs or whatever. But I'm not going to accuse him of that because there's no proof of that. But there's always that cloud over him. I think bringing Cena in always is a good thing. I think personally, I think. You've got Cena who will sell tickets, will put on a great match, will be a draw. I think as far as an opponents go, I don't know what AJ Styles is doing for WrestleMania, but I don't see why not why Styles wouldn't challenge Cena. The whole storyline behind AJ Styles so far has been that he was a big fish in a small pond. Now he's in the big leagues, and I could easily see WWE going with something where AJ Styles wants to challenge Cena in a one-on-one match to prove that he belongs here on the grandest stage. Cena and Styles in the same ring, I think would be great. But I don't know. I mean, I think Cena Taker is very appealing as well. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do with Cena if he is available.
Yeah, and I mean, that, to me, and I know a lot of people, including Chris, I think, is not a fan of a potential John Cena versus The Undertaker match. And another contributor / friend of the show, Matt Brees, who used to do Work in Progress, is vehemently against John Cena versus The Undertaker. To me, and I'll get you guys' opinion before we get ready to move on to the pay-per-view here in a second. If you look at The Undertaker's opponents, I mean, there are four guys that are, are glaring absences on that resume, and that would be Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and John Cena. I mean, over the years, could they have done The Rock and Steve Austin? Yeah. But I think if they've got the chance to do a John Cena versus The Undertaker match, a match which, by the way, still hasn't even happened in the last 10 years, and a real program between them, it's going on, almost 15, right? Since it's
yeah, but the only thing I could say to the people that don't want to see this match is I think the only logical if someone else has a reason why this match shouldn't happen, other than personal bias of not wanting to see these two guys wrestle, I think it would make big money. I think the image of seeing Cena and Taker face to face in front of 100,000 people in the middle of Cowboy Stadium at WrestleMania 32 would be a fantastic image to see. I think Cena would be able to protect Taker, from getting hurt. We've seen Taker be very, I wouldn't say soft, but he gets hurt a lot easier now. So I think Cena would be able to protect him, and I think both those guys would tell a great story in the ring. I think they would be able to kind of rise to the occasion and put together a great match. So I don't see any logical reason why this match shouldn't happen.
I agree. Especially, sorry, especially if Cena's not completely 100%. There isn't really a guy on the roster that you could put him with that would protect him more than The Undertaker. And you could even say that even if Cena was 100%, you could say that, going both ways towards Cena. I think a lot of people don't give Cena the credit he's deserved. Where, he's not a rough guy in the ring. He is a guy that, does protect his opponents more than people, I think, give him credit for. But, like I said about the Punk thing, time will definitely tell. You guys have any thoughts about that before we move on? Going once?
No, looks like we don't.
Going twice? All right. So, I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to regroup, and when we come back, we're going to start taking a look at dissecting a little bit this pay-per-view coming up tonight, or I'm sorry, live event. No, not live event. What do they call them? Live specials?
Live specials.
I think it's special event, isn't it?
I thought it was live special.
But nonetheless,
goddamn WWE terminology.
Give it time. Championship title won't even be allowed to say. But nonetheless, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to look at the event airing tonight on the WWE Network for only $9.99. If I had the sound effect queued up, I would have used that. But Not that I'm trying to cheap shill or anything for them. Believe me, I'd rather cheap shill for myself. Which, by the way, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, you guys can follow me at John MEM Radio and follow the loser that's in studio with me at CJ Lugo 112. And let's see, I got these all written down so I won't forget. Follow Aaron on Twitter at Aaron_PWPERON. And Mike Mills at Mike504 Saints. PWP Nation, the website. Aaron is the editor-in-chief of PWP Nation on Twitter. And, of course, his podcast, Wrestling Rope Break. And Booking the Territory at BTT_podcast. And Kurt is on Twitter at Frisco K-Tank. And Hank, we're working on getting a Twitter handle for.
You got it. We're working on that.
I think I got everybody there. And, of course, we're streaming live on wrestling-news.net. So, like I said, we're going to hit a commercial. And Fast Lane Talk coming up here in just a minute or two. Don't miss Sunday, April 3rd, before WrestleMania takes over. Join John Curry, Mark Madison, Wayne Daly, and more for the best panel around, talking matches, news, rumors, and more from the biggest show in sports entertainment, WrestleMania 32. Don't miss Main Event Madness WrestleMania pregame show, live Sunday, April 3rd from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, and WrestleMania postgame show live immediately following WrestleMania 32, streaming live on wrestling-news.net.
Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house, play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go a while.
All right, folks, we're back here on Main Event Madness Radio, our WWE Fastlane pregame show, streaming live on wrestling-news.net. Also, if you guys missed any of the shows so far, I believe we will be up, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, on pwpnation.com. You'll be able to check out the show there. And also, beginning this week, you guys will be able to check us out on breakingwrestlingnews.com as well. So just a couple of more ways you guys could check the show out. Never-ending list of ways to check us out, for sure. But before we get moving on this, Aaron, so how's Wrestling's Rope Break going? Do you want to tell us anything about that coming up?
Yep, we will be coming back soon. Me and Joel have been on hiatus for a while, considering he lives in Australia. I live in Connecticut in the USA. So, we've been trying to get our schedules matched up, and pretty soon we'll be bringing that back. And also, tonight after Fastlane, we'll be live on blogtalkradio.com/PWPNation, breaking down the entire show, and anyone is welcome to join.
Awesome stuff. I think I will tag along because I probably won't have much to do. Shots fired.
Also, I did see something that What Culture put up. It's the WWE Fastlane drinking game, and tonight I will be participating in that drinking game. So hopefully I won't be too inebriated for the post show later on.
Please tell me Dean's clothesline's in there at least twice.
No, well, it's so it's.
You got to tell us. You got to tell us. Now that you brought it up, you got to tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now. I think it's every time they mention WrestleMania.
Oh Jesus, you're drunk already. Okay.
every time you hear Brie mode. So obviously when her music hits and then when she says it in the ring.
Daniel Bryan retired though.
And then there's one more, and then there's you have to down a whole drink when there's a surprise return, or if there's a surprise return or debut. So. Pretty simple.
So we're gonna be drunk before 9 o'clock.
If you do anything for pointing at the sign.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
I mean, Chris will probably be drunk before the pre-show even starts, but
I didn't know if there was a rule on that sort of thing.
Okay,
so
and every side of a car. So every time, like one of those little
like a limo
graphics,
pull up,
like a zoom by, like a little car zooms by or something.
So basically, the whole WWE universe should be drunk by 8:30.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because the kids can drink now, right?
Cough medicine. They're all doing it anyway, aren't they? That's a horrible message to send. But nonetheless, guys, tweet us on Twitter if you want to chat with us during the show. Use the hashtag MEMLive. Or, actually, no, I'm not going to say that because there are too many people on as it is. Sorry about that. But nonetheless, guys, we have a pretty, for the slack that we're giving WWE for having a weak roster, it's actually not a horrible card. I mean, I don't really see any match aside from, the fact that we have to see Big Show, Kane, and Ryback in one match, which is kind of a good thing. We don't have to see multiple matches with those guys. But, I mean, I don't really see many matches that are going to bring the card down at all, the night down at all, aside from that being probably the only thing close to a real lull for the show. But let's just start right at the top. Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio for the U.S. titles in a 2 out of 3 falls match. And Aaron, I'm going to throw this to you in a second. I'm not looking forward to that only because WWE's 2 out of 3 falls matches these days are done in like 5 minutes. Because they think, I don't know if they think that it's impressive to have 2 wins in 3 minutes, counting entrances. But maybe they'll prove us wrong and we'll get a good 15, 20-minute pre-show match out of this. I doubt it, but what are your thoughts?
I just find it weird that this match is on the pre-show, but the 6-man tag is on the main show. I find that hilarious. But I think they're going to put together a solid match depending on how much time they're given. This whole Del Rio Kalisto feud has been so weird since the beginning when Kalisto beat him for the title and then Alberto beat him on SmackDown and then Kalisto won it back at the Rumble, and it's been a huge mess. And it really hasn't done anything for Kalisto, really hasn't done anything for Alberto. I wouldn't be surprised if Del Rio wins the title back again tonight and they keep playing hot potato for this title. But like I said, depending on how much time they're given, I think this match will be good. I mean, both guys are good workers. They seem to have good chemistry together. But I'm going to go with Kalisto more. I'm picking with my heart more than my head. I mean, the chances of Kalisto retaining are probably pretty decent, and I think he should retain. But the chances of Del Rio winning are, I think, pretty good as well.
Chris?
Well, the league is going to play a part in it, I think. If they show up, then chances are it's Alberto. But if somehow they decide to have Sin Cara come and fend them all off, and he somehow runs away with the win, then Kalisto will win. But it depends on who shows up, I guess, and the time they get. Being the pre-show, that actually might be a good thing, because not a good comparison. But I mean, look at what Triple H is doing with the 2 out of 3s down in NXT. I mean, the women's match that they had to close the show was really good. They had enough time, and I think with the pre-shows, that's one luxury that they could have. I mean, you forgot what they got to talk about the other matches. Yes, build them up, but that could take at max 15 minutes, and you still got a solid time to build up. A solid 15-minute match. Or if they somehow borrow time from someplace and they squeeze out to 20, that might be more than they would get in the actual card. Even though it's still a 3-hour show and they have a hard time filling that up.
Kurt, what do you think?
I think when you have, if I'm not mistaken, the pre-show is an hour long. So, I mean, they have as much time as they want for the 2 out of 3 falls. So I'm not worried about it only being like 8 minutes and rushed. I just think Kalisto's destined to be the champion that's in the multiple man match for WrestleMania that happens every year now that Money in the Bank has its own pay-per-view. I'm sure we're going to have a ladder match of some sort like we did last year with the Intercontinental title. Kalisto's perfect for that role as a champion. So I just think that now that they've given him the title, they'll probably give him as decent as you can get a push for having one of the secondary titles these days. But I think he'll retain the title.
What do you think, Mike?
I think Kalisto retains. I'm kind of curious how they're going to do this 2 out of 3 deal, but I don't know who said it about the League of Nations. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that until just now, only because I'm in my mind. I keep telling myself, okay, they flip flop this thing all these times already. There's no way they flip flop it again and give it back to Del Rio. But you never know. Maybe that's the way they want to surprise us, so to say. But in a nutshell, I'm really not looking forward to it much, even though I think it's going to be a good match. But I think Kalisto wins it.
Hank, how do you feel about the 2 out of 3 falls match?
I actually was kind of excited to see it. I mean, it's old school wrestling, 2 out of 3 falls. They've given you good matches so far, these two guys, as far as technical work in the ring. I think Kalisto holds on to it. I'm surprised they have it on the pre-show, to be honest with you, because you had the horrible 6-man matchup potentially with, the big 3 going against the Wyatts, and you have 2 women's matches on the main card. And until they get the word divas out of the vocabulary, you're leaving yourself open for bathroom breaks, food breaks during a 6-man match that involves Ryback and the other 2 guys, as well as 2 women matches. So I was kind of surprised to see this was happening. One thing that intrigues me, though, is I think they may continue with this Kalisto, Del Rio, potential League of Nations involvement in and out, because I think ultimately down the road, if not sooner, we may see Rey Mysterio coming back to the WWE to help out Kalisto and Sin Cara in a feud against the League of Nations. And that's where I think you may see Rey come back and get involved. Not tonight, but down the road.
How do you feel about that, Chris? I know you're a big Rey Mysterio fan.
Well,
I don't. Or at least used to be.
I am. I just, unfortunately, with a guy that has the aerial moves like he does, he's basically become the Hulk Hogan of high flyers. Can't really do much. Pick his leg up, that's about it. He can do enough to get the job done, but he can't keep up with the fast pace. He's somewhere in the middle now. And his only chance of doing anything, I don't think, would be good to have him go against Rusev or even Sheamus at this point. He's better off sticking with somebody who's like an AJ style, someone with that body type. Maybe Alberto, have him work with Alberto. That'd be about as far as it would go in a tag match and then have him get beat up and then somehow find his way to get into the corner. That would be the only that would even work. But I thought I read that he worked things out with AAA, so he's actually good for a while.
And Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I believe the only that it was the pay that was resolved with it, not the contract situation. And he is hung up with the contract with Lucha Underground through season 3.
He is still under contract with AAA and Lucha Underground. Apparently, the dispute was over creative and money issues, but that's apparently been all resolved, and he's going to be sticking around with them for a while.
Okay, so I guess we can put our hopes for a Rey Mysterio return, at least on hold, maybe till later this year.
Just really quickly, John, if I could just say,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't think there's been. I mean, I just find it really odd to me that Alberto came in, they paid him a good amount of money to come back. And when you have a main roster that's kind of really hurting for heels, top heels, guys that can really get heat and work and do all these great things, and I don't think they've used somebody that's made a return, and they paid him a large amount of money. They've used him really poorly, in my opinion. Especially, like I said, when you have a roster that's really hurt and banged up and so many injuries, and you're struggling to find guys who can get over with the fans as a heel or a babyface, I just find it really weird that they continue to use him in this weird role. And I can understand if they want to try and put him against Kalisto and trying to enhance Kalisto and make him a star, but they haven't done that. So I don't know. I don't get the idea of keeping him in this role when he's really not doing anything for Kalisto. The League of Nations isn't going anywhere. They're geeks. They're all losers. So I don't understand why they don't just break Del Rio off and keep him as a prominent top guy within the main event picture. I don't see it, and I think that goes toward a larger picture with the whole authority thing that I won't get into now. But I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of top heels around anymore in the main event picture. Because of the authority, but I won't. That's a discussion for a different day.
Yes, and I have another follow-up point that we will talk about a different day, maybe on the post-game show. But it could be a case of just bad timing because around the time that he came back, which isn't an excuse, given how much they paid him and how basically he's supposed to fill the void of John Cena, but at least positioning-wise in the U.S. title. But maybe. The only thing I can think is that it's bad timing, because they wanted to push Sheamus to the moon as a heel, and that completely backfired. And, maybe now, maybe, he was under contract with the agreement that it was going to be some kind of big push after WrestleMania. Or, maybe he'll break off in the league after WrestleMania. Or either that or they have plans for somebody. And I'm not trying to, turn John Cena heel wagon here. But maybe it's, he's a placeholder because they have plans for somebody else to be a bigger heel that they think would be more money, whether that be a John Cena, whether that be a Roman Reigns or a Dean Ambrose, time remains to be seen, because they will have to flip somebody, because when Seth comes back, and there are rumors that he's going to come back after, the night after WrestleMania, he's going to come back as a babyface. He's going to be white hot as a babyface, and they're going to need somebody, to flip as a heel and kind of pick up the slack. Whether they use Del Rio in that role, or whether they, like I said, they do flip somebody and it's a Cena and Ambrose or a Reigns, remains to be seen. But what do you think about that?
Well, I'm not so sure if Seth, the whole Seth Rollins thing. I'm not so sure he'll come back as a white hot babyface. I mean, he might come back as a hot babyface the first night he's back, but I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to be a heel. I'm not. They did something similar with Hunter back in like 2005 when he came back and he partnered up with Flair, and he was a big red hot baby face. People were cheering him, and then he turned on Flair the same night. So it was this thing where I think they could do something similar with Seth, where he comes back and he gets a really large response and a reaction from the crowds, but then he either turns later that night or he just continues to be a heel. I don't know. I just think whether babyface or heel, Del Rio should be used much better than he is now, considering he's an established guy, seems to be somewhat over with the fans as far as the heel is concerned. And I just think, that he could be used so much better than he is now, especially with such a diminished roster.
Do you think he's being punished, though? Because it's the same company. It's weird. Vince has more personalities than Sybil, I think. And he brought Dusty Rhodes in years ago. He put polka dots on him, and it was to make fun of him. And let's be honest, Vince hates any kind of competition. And Lucha Underground started gaining some steam. He gets one of their biggest stars away from them, makes this deal with them, and it's almost like he's punishing him a little bit for the way he left. And again, we're talking about a guy who's won a couple of titles and back about poor booking, but he's been handled very poorly in his persona. And maybe it's a little bit of a punishment. You got to work your way back in, and we're going to treat you right eventually, but you're going to pay for your sins of what you did before, the way you left. He does weird things like that, Vince.
I don't think I mean, that could be a possibility. I just don't think that's the case with Del Rio. I think Vince honestly thinks that putting him with Kalisto in this feud for the U.S. title is going to put over Kalisto, and that just is not going to happen. I mean, the way they've been booking it so far, it's not going to work the way they've been booking it, and if they continue to book it this way, it's not going to work. So I think it's just a case of them thinking this is going to work with Del Rio or plugging him into this League of Nations thing. I think that's really hurt him and kind of pigeonholed him into this mid-card spot with these geeks. I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just a really weird situation with Del Rio, and I hope, like John said, hopefully after Mania he gets some kind of elevation on the WWE ladder.
I'm just wondering why, or not why, but do title number, like times you win a title, not matter anymore? Because they're starting to climb pretty fast with those two.
Yeah.
And even like later on talking about like Reigns, I mean, he's technically at 2 already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these things they're not thinking about, or are they trying to build these guys up to be the stars and have credibility, and so that way they can come down like years down the road and say, oh yeah, he's a 7-time champion. Yeah, well, he won it in like 4 times in 1 month. I mean, are you supposed to forget that part, and then they're just supposed to look at the numbers so that way you can pad their resume, so to speak?
That's a good point. I mean, that's a really good point. And they've done the same thing with Owens. Owens wins the title back, and now he's a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. It's like, and then they like to brag about it. As soon as Owens won the title back, he's like, he's now a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. So that's a really good point. I think that's definitely something that they think about. When they start padding stats almost, and they feel like this will add some legitimacy to each title reign or that guy in a sense. So, and it doesn't do anything. So it's just their weird, wacky way of thinking.
It's also the old argument: the number of title reigns versus length of title that makes it length of title reign versus number of titles. The Undertaker. I did an article last week, and I was doing some research on it. Taker has only been a heavyweight champion in the WWF over 25 years for 238 total days. That's it. So there's no great memorable heavyweight title run for the Undertaker. It's weird. You look at 16 times, 10 times. It also means you lost it 10 times. So it's weird how they handle their title runs and reigns. Length of title reigns in that company. I don't get it. It's very strange how they think it helps you to be a 16-time champion and hold it for a grand total of 500 days. And you look at Bruno for 4,000 days with 2 title reigns. It's that old argument back and forth again.
That goes to show you though it almost doesn't matter. It just matters how the story is told, not the fact that the story was told. It's how it was done.
Exactly.
That's a remarkable thing that nobody ever thinks of. I always make the argument too, like whenever I'm talking on my show about wins and losses, and I don't like the 50-50 booking, so I'm not trying to support that at this point in time. The way they do it on Raw, 1 week the guy wins, 1 week he loses. They flip flop back and forth, but it just goes to show you that wins and losses a lot of times, or however long you held the title, doesn't matter. It matters how they presented it and how they told the story, and to get these guys to mean something to you. And that's the thing overall. I don't want to go down a tangent, John, but that's the thing that they're lacking just as a whole at this point in time.
The philosophy in wrestling has changed into where now the wrestler is used to get the belt over instead of the belt being used to get the wrestler over. I mean, we're talking about Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio right now. They're fighting for the U.S. title. Well, the U.S. title clearly doesn't mean anything right now because it's on the pre-show, whereas John Cena made the U.S. title arguably the most important title in the company with his open challenge matches. So they're using the wrestlers to get the belt over instead of the belt to get the wrestlers over, which I think is the wrong way to do it. And I don't know when that kind of switch happened, but that's the way it is nowadays.
Well, plus the instant gratification with the fans too. I think that it would be, and for the pay-per-view in general, or any pay-per-view anymore, maybe the baby faces need to hold the titles instead of having the chase, because everyone wants the instant gratification, and the way that the fan bases are, they're for kids anyways. They're trying to promote it for kids, but they always have their superheroes get beat down. They have them win the title, but then a week later they lose it for some stupid reason. I'm starting to think that maybe they need to have the good guys hold the titles for just a little bit longer than they have been.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I wrote a whole article on my website, pwpnation.com, where I talked about the Authority and how they've made Raw almost like a no fun zone where the babyfaces never go over. They never get their due. The heels never get their comeuppance. They always get their heat back somehow. And I think I don't know if necessarily the babyfaces have to hold the titles and the chase doesn't mean anything anymore. I think it's the way WWE books chases that make it feel like the babyfaces can never overcome that mountain. If you book a chase right, I think I think one of the rare cases that WWE's booked a chase well is with Daniel Bryan. I mean, some people will criticize that chase and how long it took and how they exactly did it, but in the end, they did it perfectly fine. When it was all said and done, it was a long, slow burn. Bryan constantly, attacking away at trying to get that title, and he finally did. I think if you do a chase correctly and you do it the right way, which WWE doesn't seem to know how to do, it can work. With the Del Rio and Kalisto thing, the idea of having him win the title on Raw and then have him lose it the next day on the same week on SmackDown, and then have him win it again at the Royal Rumble doesn't mean anything. It's just a hot potato of this title. When if you were to have Alberto hold the title all the way up until the Royal Rumble, treat Del Rio as a top guy as far as a United States champion and make him feel important, and then have Kalisto chase, the win for Kalisto would have been a lot bigger at the Royal Rumble than it was when he did win the title. Now you have, like I said, this whole hot potato thing where the title doesn't mean anything, and they're just wrestling for a title that's insignificant, And
it's unfortunate how so quickly, it seems like even 5 years ago, at least, and anymore, I mean, babyfaces being booked for championships, it doesn't even look like they could win. Like, Randy Orton's champion, Brock Lesnar's champion, Seth Rollins' champion. I mean, how many babyfaces did they go through where it's like, why do we even bother? I mean, who was it? Was it CM Punk that was champion and John Cena faced him like 6 times because they had nobody else
Yeah.
that was even credible to be booked as a babyface? And I mean, who's to even say that if they decide, all right, well, isn't going to get the crowd pleasing reaction, so we're going to put Dean Ambrose in the main event. But who's to say that Triple H is even going to put him over? Keep the heel champion going, and then begs the question: what babyface are they going to put up there to beat him?
That's exactly the thing with the Authority, and I've said it 100 times. The Authority never get what's coming to them. They'll get it for one night, but then the next night, right after, they get their heat back. And it's this thing where the fans can never enjoy the baby faces going over. It's either it's a one night thing, and then the next night on Raw, the Authority come out and they poop all over, they shit all over everybody, and it's just back to having no fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is a no fun zone. The perfect example of an Authority figure is William Regal down at NXT. You only see him when a decision needs to be made and when he wants to do what's best for the fans in attendance. That's what a good general manager does. I'm not saying I'm completely against any heel faction or figure leading a company or whatever, but I think it's been proven that a babyface GM, a babyface Authority figure, does better than a heel Authority figure as far as a total show is concerned. I just think that's the case.
And
I think the Authority does a lot of what's going on.
The biggest issue with the Authority is actually Stephanie McMahon.
Oh.
Because, I mean, Triple H, he picks and chooses when he wants to, but when he wants to, sell for someone or put someone over and make the babyface look good, he'll do that. I mean, he proved it with Sting. He did a good job with Roman Reigns, I feel. He did it with Daniel Bryan for sure. So he gets his comeuppance. The problem is, with this PG era that we live in now, Stephanie can never get hers back, and she's the one that does most of the browbeating nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas we're waiting for her to get her payback, that's never going to come. And I think WWE felt last year that they were going to be able to bring Ronda Rousey in to WrestleMania 31, get that little pop going, and then basically build Stephanie for a year as this evil bitch, but she'll get her comeuppance at WrestleMania 32. But now that's not going to happen, and we're stuck with what you're saying, where we can't enjoy anything the baby faces do because the heels are always going to stay on top, and it's mainly because of her.
Yeah,
and that's that was the part that was at least somewhat interesting about her angle with Brie Bella a couple years ago, was because Stephanie's character, and you could argue whether it's a character or her real life, was playing such a bitch that you wanted to see, nobody wants to encourage, male on woman violence, but you wanted to see somebody, either shut her up, lay her out, something, and it's...
And it doesn't even have to be something like that. It doesn't have to be physical whatsoever. It can be something as easy as a promo.
Yeah.
As easy as, when Jericho used to just put her down. Obviously you can't do that in this, like Kurt said, in this PG environment, but there are ways to do it. There are creative ways to do it where you can give her comeuppance on a weekly, bi-weekly basis in small doses, where there isn't this long, drawn-out thing where Stephanie is always browbeating, always dressing down baby faces and making them feel useless. Even with the Ronda Rousey thing, let's say Stephanie had this long build, a year long, where she was just a bitch, and Ronda finally gets to Stephanie at WrestleMania 32. The next night on Raw, Stephanie would have came out, done the same thing she always does, get her heat back, and then it would have been the same thing. So it's this thing where they've got to break this habit of always having Stephanie look strong, Hunter look strong. And Kurt, that's a good point. Hunter seems to, he's always willing to do business for the right price or the right cost or the right moment. But Stephanie seems to never ever get her what's coming to her. So it's a sad situation. Definitely.
I'm hoping that if it's a Reigns or an Ambrose or hell even Brock Lesnar, I really don't care which one it is in this regard. But if somebody or whoever wins the triple threat match, I hope somebody, has some kind of confrontation with Triple H, whether it be on Raw tomorrow night or at the pay-per-view tonight. And I know they just did this last year, but it'll lead to something. Have whoever it is take the belt from Triple H somehow, whether they beat him up or whatever they do, and Triple H wants his belt back. They already have the title match, but Triple H wants the belt back. Okay, we'll give you the belt back as long as you sign a stipulation that if you lose at WrestleMania, the authority's done. Gone. There is no stipulation where you can come back as long as I say you can, like when Cena took him out. If you lose the WWE title at WrestleMania, the authority's done, finished. And
yeah, but we saw that at Survivor Series.
But they put the bullshit stipulation where Cena could bring them back. As kind of a way, as a loose end. Well, we're not done tugging on this yet, so we're gonna go right back to it. Whereas, any good story, as good as the authority started out, the authority needs some kind of culmination, some kind of way. I can't think of the right words here, but
I think, ironically enough, the culmination of the authority would be Stephanie taking, a bump of some sorts. I don't think it'd be very hard. Nobody wants to, be a proponent for, male on female violence, but it would not be hard at all. Let's use Reigns in this example. It would not be hard at all to have Reigns and Triple H at WrestleMania, let's say. And let's say Stephanie gets in the ring, refs down, Stephanie gets in the ring, and she smacks Roman Reigns, just repeatedly slaps him. And then she goes to hide behind Triple H. Well, Roman then goes to spear Triple H. Triple H moves, and Roman Reigns ends up hitting Stephanie. I don't think that's quote-unquote male-on-female violence. You can play that off in professional wrestling storytelling very easily. But then, if Roman Reigns spears Stephanie, Triple H can't believe what happened to his wife. Roman Reigns then Superman punches Triple H. Match over. Reigns wins the title. Then you could then dissolve the authority because Stephanie can justify being mad at Triple H for putting her in harm's way. So it's not that hard to do, but it centers around Stephanie and being able to do something to her.
And that was one thing I was going to ask too. Is does anybody think that at this point in time with Triple H and Stephanie's characters and their real life, would a storyline of the two of them butting heads be any sort of believable? Or do you think that they could book it the right way, where Triple H and Stephanie somehow are butting heads over, how the authority should run business?
It'll never be believable, John, because I'll tell you why. It is so difficult. When we saw Titus O'Neil last couple of weeks ago, they keep coming in and out of character too much for the fan base. You're heels, then you're nice people having the moment with the sick children, and are you heels? Are you faces? They keep confusing the fan base because of how they keep putting themselves out in the public in both types of personas. And I know the wall is down of kayfabe, it's gone, but you got to have a little bit of it though, and that's why they really need to go away. Find a way. I was kind of hoping, and I did like the idea about having Reigns in a match with Triple H. But I was hearing now about you don't even have to have Reigns hit Stephanie. Let's say you don't use the boss at WrestleMania against Charlotte Flair. She could be in Reigns' corner watching Stephanie the whole time, and you could get her over with the crowd by having her pop Stephanie if she gets involved in the match. You could work it out some kind of angle that way. They just really need to go away. Triple H needs to focus on NXT, getting himself to be the heir apparent to Vince. She needs to go away and do a goodwill work. You could bring the Mr. McMahon character back and forth from time to time. But what made Vince work, as Mr. McMahon initially was, he had wrestlers doing his business for him. As long as the authority has one of their own, Triple H, doing the work for them, being the champ, that's what hurts this authority group more than the Mr. McMahon angle years ago, who eventually got in the ring with Stone Cold, but he had The Rock doing his work for him, or he had other people doing his work for him. As long as Triple keeps putting himself in the championship run, that's always going to be an agitation for the fan base.
The storyline between Triple H and Stephanie being at odds with each other could be believable. The question is, would the fans look past the hypocrisy of it to make it believable? Because if that were to happen, I think everyone would immediately think of the fact that Vince just completely overreacted with the Lana and Rusev storyline when they were doing the same thing, being real life couple on social media, but playing the part of against each other's odds on TV. But Vince is like, nope, can't do that. She revealed they're engaged. So if Triple H and Stephanie were to try to play that off on TV that they're against odds, would the fans look past the hypocrisy of that to let the storyline, run its course and become good if possible?
Or do you think that could be a way that WWE starts rebuilding kayfabe? Is, have them start being at odds, butting heads, and then whether it be social media or do something in real life where they tease that they're, maybe getting a divorce or, that they're butting heads in real life to make you think that, all right, well, this could be real then. Obviously, I mean, I don't think that many people would believe it, but, it could be in a step in the right direction, I think. Whereas, at least, I don't know. I think wrestling as a whole went too far, getting rid of kayfabe, whether that's strictly WWE or, TNA's even worse, but I think the kayfabe itself, was timed. I think sooner or later, especially with social media and everything, it was doomed. But I think the wrestling as a whole went a little too far because if you at least held on to a little bit of it, you could have went back to it. Whereas now you got to literally build a new foundation and go from the ground up. But anyway, we got about 20 minutes or so left, so let's try to hit these quick, and then we'll wrap up. Big Show, Kane, and Ryback versus the Wyatts. Is anybody here excited for that match?
Nope.
Nope.
Negative.
Chris? He's stone-faced, that's a no. So I will put that to an I don't care for all six of us about that match.
Actually, wait. I see Wyatt's losing, and they just obviously that leads into later in tonight.
I actually think the opposite. I think they're going to win to look strong, and then you have them attack Lesnar in the main event.
You got to make the Wyatts look strong.
Yeah.
AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho. We'll just go one down the order. Who do we think's going to win? Aaron, who do you think wins that match?
Styles better win.
Chris?
I see Styles winning, or something questionable with the Miz getting involved again.
Mike?
Styles wins.
Kurt?
I'm gonna go Styles because I think it needs to be Styles versus Owens for the IC title at WrestleMania.
And Hank?
Styles in a 4-star match. I think Jericho shows his best match in a long, long time.
Sounds good. So since we had that match touchdown, Kevin Owens defending the IC strap against Dolph Ziggler. We'll go right back with you, Hank. Who do you think wins that match?
Owens in another really good match. He retains, and Dolph gets his credibility back a little bit by putting on a good showing.
Kurt?
I'm going Owens, definitely. I mean, Ziggler is destined for the Battle Royal, I would think.
Mike?
I'm going Owens, and I'm actually really looking forward to this one. I like both of those guys very much, but I definitely think Owens wins.
I think it's a surprise. I think there's a chance Dolph's got it.
And Aaron?
I would be looking forward to this match if I hadn't seen it a million times on TV. And you know how Ziggler has that, the phrase on the I think he still has it on the back of his tights that says "over it." I'm kind of over this feud already, and hopefully Owens retains.
Um,
Do you think that this could be Ziggler's last feud as a babyface, that we could finally get him turning heel again?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if he turns heel, who's he going against? He's stuck in mid-card purgatory.
The first of two Divas matches, Becky and Sasha versus Team Bad. And before I answer, before I go with this, who here watches SmackDown?
I do.
I do.
I think it's a much better show than Raw.
It is.
Did they reunite with Cameron?
That was a house show.
Oh, okay. So that's not something they're going with.
I mean, they made down the road, but yeah, that was just for house shows.
Oh, that's actually a relief because there are several women that deserve to come back to the main roster before her. But Team Bad versus Becky and Sasha, which I think could actually be an interesting thing that they could carry on, at least with Sasha with that, if they don't put her in the title match. But what do you think, Aaron?
I've got Becky and Sasha.
Lugo?
Becky and Sasha.
I kind of got a feeling about this one. Mike?
Becky and Sasha as well.
Kurt?
Becky and Sasha leading to a triple threat against Charlotte.
And I think Hank's going to go for the clean sweep here.
That is correct, with Sasha turning on her and beating her to no end at the end of the match.
I could dig it. And I think we all are in agreement about this match. Charlotte versus Brie. Let me not ask you guys about the match because we all know. I know everybody's opinion of the match, or at least I can assume it. Let me ask you this question instead. Could we see Daniel Bryan surprise everybody and come out and just to be in Brie's corner to kind of neutralize Ric Flair?
He was in Dallas for a Autorama signing that literally just wrapped up probably about an hour ago. So I don't think he can physically make it.
Yeah, well, that answers that question.
But before I started to cut you off, funny enough, I just said that I think it'll be a triple threat match at Mania with Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha. But I actually there's a strong part of me that thinks Brie's going to win this match tonight.
I agree.
And the reason I'm glad someone agrees. The reason I feel that way, Total Divas has to be represented in a big way at WrestleMania. That's just how WWE thinks. And it would almost be poetic for Total Divas to go off the air with Brie at WrestleMania in her last match. Because we all know she's retiring soon. So I could see her winning the title here tonight, and then maybe a fatal four-way match with her, Becky, Charlotte, and Sasha, and then losing the title, retiring, and it all ties up neatly.
Either that, or could we see something where Brie puts her career on the line versus a number one contender spot if she loses tonight? I
think just from WWE logic, I think her being the champion and kind of showing that on Total Divas, because for better or worse, we all know that a lot of the Diva stuff revolves around that TV show. I think that would be something they're strongly considering.
I can see that, but we will find out in a few hours for that one for sure. And the match that everybody's concerned with the most, I feel, which for once the main event's actually got people's interest. Dean versus Brock versus Roman. Triple threat. Aaron, who's going to WrestleMania to face Triple H for the WWE Championship?
If you're betting on this, I would go with Reigns. I'm hoping. I mean, listen. I like Reigns. I think he's really good. I think he's gotten really, really much better since last year's Mania. I think he's someone who deserves to be in the main event picture, all that stuff. But I just can't logically see them going into Mania with Reigns and Hunter, and Reigns going to presumably walk out champion. And I don't know if they're going to want to end WrestleMania 32 in front of 100,000 people with the world watching, where the entire crowd is raining, no pun intended, raining over Reigns with booze. So, I would have to think they're going to put somebody in this match that could be cheered. I mean, if they go Hunter and Reigns with a smart crowd like there's going to be at WrestleMania, knowing that Hunter is in charge of NXT, I think they're going to cheer Hunter. So I think it defeats the whole purpose if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to have Reigns go over. So, I mean, I'm thinking Ambrose. Why not? Throw Ambrose into the main event. Have him win the title. It'll be a great moment. I mean, I think WWE, similar to WrestleMania 30, needs to kind of swallow their pride. Similar to last year, swallow their pride and go with what fans would rather see. And I think people would rather see Ambrose win the title than Reigns.
I'm going to piggyback on what Aaron just said. I think the point about Triple H at WrestleMania is a great point, because if NXT TakeOver is as good as advertised, 2 nights before WrestleMania, I think Triple H is going to have a lot of goodwill coming off of that. So I think the crowd definitely cheers for him in a Triple H versus Reigns match. But Ambrose is definitely the way to go here, and it's very easy to set up. I mean, you can have the Wyatts come out and take out Lesnar, but in the process, take out Reigns as well, whether it's by accident or on purpose, because, Bray can still rely on the anyone but Reigns storyline. and then you could do maybe a 4-on-2 Wyatt's versus Reigns and Lesnar. Unlikely partnership at WrestleMania. You could do something like that. But I definitely think tonight's the night they need to pull the trigger on Ambrose.
And keep in mind, Hunter always has a great entrance. People will love that too. I mean, there's no chance that Reigns gets cheered over Hunter at Mania, and I don't know how they're going to logically. I don't know how the commentators are going to logically, just try and sell this moment as a big moment for Reigns winning the title back. I mean, it's just. I think you've got to pull the trigger on Ambrose here. I mean, you just have to.
Now, sorry, Chris, don't mean to talk over you. Could they go the route of somehow, the Wyatts take out Brock Lesnar, but, somehow there's some kind of shady finish with Reigns and Ambrose where it's a triple threat between Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Triple H for the title, and then, Seth comes back, interferes in the match, but turns on Triple H, so it seems like we have the three of the Shield on the same side, and then Dean pulls the switch, and Dean,
I think it's very possible for a triple threat match. I think it's very possible.
I don't know.
That's probably actually the most likely scenario.
But to Aaron's point, do you guys think that they'll end WrestleMania with 100,000 people booing them?
I don't know.
But Chris, you were.
Oh no! And what I would love to see in a perfect world for me, you have Dean win. Then you have him go on to WrestleMania. Then you have the fans happy. You have Roman do the exact opposite that Dean did to him the whole entire time. Every time Dean lost to him, have Roman not be able to handle that and snap on him like he did on Triple H. That way you've got the fans actually effectively making the fans happy, but at the same time booing him, but for the reasons that he needs to be booed. And then you can bring that into have him do something else with somebody completely different, have him start snapping on another baby face. If Cena comes back early, have him snap on Cena. Have Cena versus Reigns. Have Cena give an Owens versus Cena type match with Reigns to show that Reigns can be versatile. You've got that. But what's actually going to happen for me, what I think, because WWE loves to do this, is that Reigns is going to win and Dean's going to do the switch. He lost the belt, so that's unfortunately... For me, I feel like it's almost writing on the wall that Dean's turning. No matter, I don't know when, but I see it happening.
And I almost think coming out of that ending on Raw, I mean, yeah, the whole point was trying to get over that anything could happen in the triple threat and that it's every man for himself. But the look that they had Dean Ambrose give in that whole segment, whether they had him do that or he did it on his own, I don't think that was just a subtle tease. I think that was, they're heading in that direction that, to your point, that he is. I mean, he could be snapped.
Yeah, he could be ticked off with losing to his best friend. They have the perfect tools to do it, and it does make sense. But to make people happy, to make me happy, keep Dean being a good guy because I'm already they've taken just about everything they can away from Ambrose. They've basically called him the third guy. The third most important guy of the Shield. I compared him to Stone Cold, and they turned around. They gave that to Reigns too, with that obvious in the promo for Royal Rumble. They had Austin doing the pose, and they had Roman doing a similar pose. I thought he was this generation's Austin. Obviously not as popular, but you couldn't keep him down. I mean, look at what he's doing with Brock. You can't keep him down, but they just don't want to go with it. I don't know why. But I feel like there's a lot more potential in Ambrose than they want to believe. I mean, he's the only member of the Shield that hasn't been out with an injury. He was out for a movie. He wasn't out for an injury. They kept him off TV.
Mm-hmm. But it's
WWE's mindset with Ambrose has changed though, in some form, because you look at the last 2 weeks on Raw.
It's kind of been the Dean Ambrose show.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and it was fun. It was good to see that. And then, dropping the title to Owens before Fastlane gives that, it opens up the door now. We're having this conversation now, I think, because he did drop the title to Owens, so it could lead to bigger things. I've heard that there's a possibility of a consolation, quote unquote consolation prize for Ambrose. Maybe he's Taker's opponent at WrestleMania. And that's why he dropped the belt, because obviously he doesn't need to be Intercontinental title for that match. So regardless of whether Ambrose wins tonight or not, which obviously I said before, I think he does. I think there is a bigger picture in mind for Ambrose, and he's not just going to get left by the wayside tonight, whether he wins or loses, or especially if he loses.
You think Ambrose is going to win tonight? You said.
I do think he's going to win. The booking the last 2 weeks, maybe I'm just being gullible, but the booking the last 2 weeks for Ambrose tells me they have a big plan in mind for him, and I think the plan is for him to be the babyface heading into WrestleMania.
See, I think the booking of him the last couple of weeks is because he's going to take the pin tonight.
Yeah, that's Aaron. That's what I was thinking too. I actually think this is going to sound crazy what I say. I actually think that Dean is going to win, but I think there's also like a psychological mind game being played where it's been the Ambrose show.
Yeah.
So it's like they're trying to throw people off.
Yeah. So it's this big surprise when Reigns wins, but it's really
right.
not.
But I don't think that's actually what's going to happen. So while I think that's what they're trying to do, in my mind, I'm going, okay, they're trying to do that just to kind of throw me off. But I think actually Dean actually wins, if that makes sense.
I'd love it, man. I really hope so.
I do too. I'm with you.
That's the one good thing, at least I think, about these pay-per-views, and the only really good thing, the last few years is that they use kind of, not to use, kind of an, I don't know how you describe the term, but to kind of retcon whatever decisions they've made so far. That's kind of the way they reboot going in to WrestleMania. But at least we've seen some fun moments from, Fastlane last year with Bryan and Reigns was a tremendous match last year. And, some other fun moments from, like, when they had the No Way Out in the Elimination Chamber. Who thought you'd see Edge be the first person eliminated in an Elimination Chamber match only to win the WWE title later that night, completely flip-flopping the brands, the titles, and everything, later setting up, obviously, for the draft. But, I mean, whether or not they're going to put as much effort into this pay-per-view as they have in previous ones remains to be seen. But at least trying to be optimistic, I guess. But we got about 5 minutes left. Aaron, is there anything you want to promote for yourself this week?
Well, head over to pwpnation.com. We got a bunch of great stuff up there. Like I said earlier, I'll be live after the show on PWP Nation. Our Blog Talk Radio page, so blogtalkradio.com/pwpnation. We'll go live at 11 o'clock. We'll break down the entire show. And of course, follow me at Aaron_PWP and follow PWP at PWP Nation on Twitter.
Great stuff. Let's see, Mike, what's coming up? Booking the territory? Anything good coming up for you?
Within the next month, I've got Sam Houston coming on the show. I've got from Jim Cornette's show, Kenny Starmaker Bowling coming up, and just our normal crazy shenanigans that we do weekly. Other than that, you can follow me at Mike504Saints, and then you can follow Booking the Territory at BTT_podcast on Twitter. I appreciate you bringing me on, John. I had a lot of fun.
No problem, man. Thanks for being wanting to come on. Really appreciate it. Kurt, anything coming up good for you on TGR Wrestling?
I just want to say I'm surprised we're not talking about the real main event of tonight with the New Day, Edge, and Christian verbal altercation.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the real main event tonight.
That's going to be so gold. That's going to be so much gold. It's going to be fantastic.
But as far as TJR Wrestling, just catch me every Wednesday for the NXT Spotlight, and probably in 2 weeks for the 1 month countdown to WrestleMania, I will have a All You Need to Know About Dallas Guide to WrestleMania posted on TJR Wrestling.
Great stuff. Sounds like some great reads coming up. And Hank, anything coming up for you on TGR Wrestling?
I'm going to be talking this week about guys who were WWE Hall of Famers and who haven't won the WWE title, and the lack of developing future Hall of Famers by focusing on same guys over and over again right now. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll be doing an article on bad WrestleMania appearances, unforgettable first appearances, a la Brodus Clay, a la Fandango. So those will be things you'll be seeing me write about over the next couple of weeks.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you, Hank, Kurt, and Mike. I got a couple things I got to promote up here coming up for the show this week. Thank you guys for coming on. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, John. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
And Aaron, I think I will take you up on your offer for the post-game show tonight.
All right, great. Looking forward to it.
I don't know if Chris will be back by then. If he is, I don't know if he'll want to tag on or not.
Hey, everyone's welcome.
But excited about this week, Aaron. I wanted to keep you on for this because you were around at least for when not too long after the Main Event Madness name started. But excited for this week. Our 50th show under the Main Event Madness banner is Wednesday, and our 2-year anniversary show this week also. So really excited for that. I was gonna see if you're interested in coming on. I know your schedule's tight, but
yeah, just send me a message when it is and all the details, and I'll see if I can make it on.
Awesome, will do. And guys, I was hoping to have something regarding the show. I don't at the moment. Waiting to hear back on a couple. Please visit facebook.com/Main Event Madness. I will have that up as soon as I get confirmation back regarding some stuff for the show, interviews and stuff. Look, trying to be optimistic for it. Don't want to really delve too much into that, but fingers are crossed for a couple of them. Could be a couple big ones. But if you guys want to tune in, we're back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, our 2-year anniversary show. We're going at least 2 hours. That's the easy way to put it. Mark will be on the first hour. I don't know if this bozo in the room with me is going to be around. He's welcome to if he wants. I know I'm number one. It's about time everybody realizes Main Event Madness is number one.
Good save.
Obviously, he didn't call me number one. But Evan will be with us. Wayne will not be with us. He'll be past his bedtime. If he's listening right now, he's probably going to be throwing me a few choice words.
Calling you number one?
Huh?
Calling you number one?
Well, it's going to be the first part of that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we are going to actually have the return of Mr. Alfonso Merriman for the first time in about 6 months on the show this week. So that'll be interesting to say the least. But Aaron, just wanted to say thank you. Really appreciated you coming on, man, and filling the co-host chair again for me.
No problem.
Co-hosting with Chris, I guess you could say. And we will talk definitely later for sure, and I'll be around for your post-game show.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Aaron.
Later.
But guys, that is going to do it for this show. Like I said, our 2-year anniversary show is Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, wrestling-news.net. Follow us on, or like us on Facebook, and I'll have the information up there as soon as I hear back from something. If not, you just have the usual hijinks and shenanigans that you get from us each and every week. Like me on if I can get the right words today, Follow me on Twitter at John MEM Radio. Mark is at TheMarkMadison, and Evan is at Evan_Ginsburg. EVAN_GINZBURG. And, of course, Wayne Daily, Wrestling-News.net at WN_net. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you for tuning in and hearing what we have to say about the WWE Fastlane show. Enjoy it. Don't get too drunk with the drinking games out there between Heel Book and What Culture. I'm sure there's plenty of them for people to get a little inebriated tonight. And any final thoughts, Chris?
Swig of beer for the working man.
But until next time, guys, Lord willing, we'll be back with you Wednesday. Bye-bye.
The preceding broadcast was an MEM Network production. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you missed a part or all of tonight's show, visit Spreaker.com/show/Main Event Madness or PWPNation.com. Also, every week, we stream live on Wrestling-News.net. And for the latest news on the show, like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Main Event Madness. Be sure to catch us back here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed. Have a good one, everybody. So long.